Welcome everyone, Michael McCarthy with the blockchain class, and I'd like to introduce our latest guest today, Navroop Sahdev, who is a fellow at MIT and an economist and has a huge focus on the blockchain space. And Navroop, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Michael.
So Navroop, blockchain has so many different avenues and paths that we can go down. What is your particular interest and focus in the blockchain space?
Yeah, so I'm an economist by training, and a year into this space, I realized not a lot of people were talking about the larger implications of new infrastructure technology on our economies, our economic interactions, and really the way our current economic structures are. And I think having a just decentralized or distributed network underlying it compared to a centralized network really is a game changer. So a lot of my work has been focused on looking at the space from an economist perspective, and we do need more economists to think through a lot of these economic incentives, new markets, new business models, so on and so forth. And just to give an example, we just submitted the first paper on behavioral economics applied to token valuation as a book chapter. And for those who are interested, it is on how value is created in tokenized assets. And it's out on SSRN for folks to look at. And if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to chat more.
So that leads me to my next question regarding tokens. A lot of people are doing them, and today's focus in the short time that we have together is to find out, what is getting traction, what's the latest, greatest, what are some of the current trends. Since tokens are what we started our conversation on, are there any people or any types of tokens that are gaining traction that we should be aware of, or any names in the space that we could be aware of?
Yeah, I think I want to answer this question from looking at the tokenization of assets, as we call it here at MIT, as an entirely new asset class, right? And another paper that I'm working on, which we are about to finish, is a historic analysis of the first ICO from 2013 all the way to now. We have a database of around 2,000 ICOs. And I think what we're witnessing is, like I said, a new asset class and how it is changing a lot of things for at least raising early stage capital already, right? And I think the focus on one token is sort of a little distracting in the sense, but the entirety of the ecosystem is the most exciting part for me. And most of these tokens, they do sort of claim to be utility tokens, but fortunately or unfortunately, they are security tokens from at least a regulation perspective in the United States. There's no real way for them to be utility tokens, and that's kind of deterrent to the innovation ecosystem here too. So that remains to be seen. And I think for anyone who is looking to do an ICO or a token sale, which are two different things, by the way, that is something to be aware of. So we do see a lot of jurisdiction shopping, as we call it, companies incorporating abroad and doing ICOs abroad. And I think we are asking a more fundamental question. Do we have regulation here in the US which is supporting entrepreneurship and the changing nature of entrepreneurship, and at the same time helping innovation ecosystems, or are we driving away these industries? So that's just to give you a little bit sense of what I'm doing are these bigger questions. In terms of the people to follow, folks to follow, I mean, look, I try to be agnostic about it as a researcher and, take a step back and sort of look at the ecosystem. But I think since I've been advising over a dozen companies over the past 1 year, I am excited about use cases that have real impact. Not yet another crypto hedge fund, but what are you trying to enable through technology that was earlier not possible? What problem are you solving? So for example, one of the companies I'm advising is creating a token economy for plastic waste management. So every bottle of plastic that you turn in, you get a token in return that you can then use for exchanging with fiat or other use cases. So if you have a use case like that and a real team behind it, and actually hosted an AMA Ask Me Anything session on how you can value and understand if many of these token sales are legit or not, then you have something to real to look at, and that's sort of what I would encourage. I know from work of Daniel Kahneman on cognitive psychology and behavioral economics that it is possible to take a step back and really analyze it from an objective perspective.
So if I could dive a little bit deeper on the plastic waste token that you're mentioning, is this sort of similar to how they're using carbon credit tokens?
Similar to that, I want to say, I think it's a similar model, if you may, but in terms of obviously, in terms of the industry, obviously, you're talking about the energy use case, but in this instance, it's plastic waste management or waste management industry in general. So that's another thought I think I want to leave you with is really the technology is not something that can actually replace industry knowledge. At the end of the day, the technology is to solve these problems which already are existing. So I think the unique venue or the unique way to do these things is to understand how it can transform your industry and how you can do new things with it, which were earlier not possible.
And for our students who are just starting out, blockchain is new for them. This is most likely their first class in blockchain. When they're inundated with all these different token ideas, how do you suggest that they analyze these tokens to say, this is a really legitimate use of a token, and this is not really a good use of a token? How would they be able to do their own analysis?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in the paper that I mentioned on how value is created in tokenized assets, we proposed a new framework for token confidence that accounts for different factors you need to consider when you're doing this. And it's sort of like a scorecard that you can have. And again, it's out in the public domain. Anyone can do it and use these tools to understand this. But also, the important thing is common sense, right? And so at the end of the day, it would be the team that would actually carry on these projects. So if you see people emerging out of nowhere and suddenly they have this idea and they want to put this together, that's a red flag, right? Another thing I do is trace second-degree connections. So if you may be in touch with the founders, but then who are they connected to in turn? And so again, many of these ideas and thoughts are out on the AMA session. At the end of the day, it is important to analyze these ICOs and token sales in the same way you would do to an early stage startup, because the business fundamentals do not change. And the way we have adapted this new framework using Timon's model for entrepreneurship is to present a new or augmented with a new token mechanics section. I think that would be really useful for the students to consider.
Good point. And one of the things that we teach in our entrepreneurship class is number one predictor of success is your team. You have to have a good team. You could have a great idea, but the team's going to carry it. So I appreciate the fact that there's crossover, that this is not a new world. Maybe it's a new planet in the universe, but we're still in the same universe.
Yeah.
And so in a few seconds, just actually we have about 2 minutes to go. Are there any other things regarding tokens or things that you're seeing on the horizon that are gaining traction that we should just simply be aware of, that, oh, this is something emerging or something that is catching your interest?
Yeah, so I think I want to move beyond just token sales and ICOs to answer that question and really say that blockchain technology in itself really is a game changer, and there is a sense in pretty much every major industry that it will be disrupting the incumbents. And I mean, if you think about it, you can start to appreciate really all that the technology can do, right? Big auditing firms, for example, I was speaking at a panel at the Boston Irish Business Association just last night. So there was a senior executive of KPMG, and they're wondering, would they be even doing auditing, right, a few years from now? Because the very notion of auditing that's done ex post is redundant with a technology which allows you regulation and compliance real time. So that is where the real revolution lies, in these business models and in thinking through some of these things that have been thought through, but we didn't have a technology tool to actually execute them, like Creative Commons. So I went back to my university in Paris and said, this can be the technology to create consensus within or to organizing the government and, Creative Commons or common pool resources. So those are the kind of dots you can join as newcomers into the space, I would say that's really where a lot of thinking is necessary. And if you think about it, so I've done my research work on complex system science at Harvard Kennedy as part of my master's thesis. Look at it from a complexity science perspective. What you're witnessing now, along with a bunch of other technologies, and it would be an emergent property of the system. It's the convergence of a variety of technologies that promises a new future. And so it's important to take stock of the system as a whole and not just a single asset class, whether it's crypto or it's fiat or it's regular securities, but how you connect these dots and have something that is more than the sum of its parts.
Excellent. And my final question, because a lot of our students are looking at new careers before graduation, if some of these students are just totally passionate about blockchain, they really want to be a part of that, and they want to do well and do good at the same time, where would you suggest they focus in the blockchain space if they wanted to make a career out of it? Where do you think you'd nudge them to focus?
Right. I think I'm assuming most of the students are not from a computer science background, because in that case, it's clear you can, get down to learning cryptography and actually, build these systems. From a business perspective, understand where value lies and understand where digital transformation opportunities lie. And digital transformation is different from mere digitalization of business models and the way products and services are being put in the market. And it's important to have an eye for understanding where new opportunities would be as things change, right? Where new opportunities to create value and actually monetize it too would lie. So it doesn't matter which background you're from. That's usually what I say. You can write your own job description, and I've done it so far. But the unique angle you bring in, along with the industry expertise that you have, and if you can show how technology can solve some new problems, bring efficiencies, for example, in your current processes within the organization or for your clients, I think that has a long way to go in terms of putting a vision out there, whether it's for your own career or the organization you're part of, or at the same time, changing relationships within the workspace, right? So that will be my quick take on it.
Great. Navroop, thank you so much for your insights. And if the students wanted to be in touch with you or learn more about what you're doing, which I find really interesting, and I appreciate you taking time, do you have a website or email address or information that you'd be willing to share with us?
Absolutely. So I think LinkedIn would be the most straightforward way to get in touch. I also can have a quick look at the person's background and student's background. So feel free to reach out at Navroop Sahdev. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I do have a website. I mostly post my pictures there, so I'm not sure that's useful, but I'm more than happy to leave you with my email address, and feel free to share that with the students in case they want to reach out. And there's a bunch of resources out there, links on whether my LinkedIn profile or on YouTube and others that I'm more than happy to help on, whether there are any questions and further exploration there.
Great. Actually, I think that's how we connected on LinkedIn. I just typed in your name, which is, you were the only Navroop Sahdev on LinkedIn, so it was really easy to find you. Very easy. So thank you so much again for your insights. I hope you have a great summer, and we might be in touch again with some more questions.
Thank you very much. Sounds good. And all the best on your blockchain journey for all the students.
Thank you.